Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar. My name is Brian Lawfer, and I'm the Vice President here at QuoteWerks. I've been hosting many of our webinars over the past few years, and I'm excited to introduce our new training evangelist, Josh Lockheed. You'll be seeing and hearing a lot from him, from webinars to tutorial videos, emails, and even documentation. In his role, he will be working with you, the QuoteWerks community, ensuring you have the resources you need to be successful with all of your quoting and procurement needs. Josh has joined us relatively recently, but has already become a master of our latest release. He's eager to share his knowledge and expertise with you today, but I will still be in the background ensuring everything runs smoothly and assisting in answering your questions. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Josh Lockheed.
Great. Thanks, Brian. I really appreciate it. And first off, I want to say thank you for not just the welcome today, but in general. As you said, I'm relatively new to the QuoteWerks team, and you guys have welcomed me with open arms, and it's really refreshing to feel. So thank you, and I really look forward to continuing to grow my knowledge and continuing to be a part of this great company that we have here. So that being said, purpose of today's webinar is to dive into some of the topics around our version 24 build 3 release. With that being said, again, this is the first build that I've had an opportunity to be involved with from start to finish. And today we're going to be focusing specifically on version 24 build 3. And you can easily update to the latest version just by installing version 24 build 3. Yet we're on 3 now. So if you have an earlier build, you might want to update. But if you do need to update, you don't have to install any incremental updates. When you install an update, you receive all the features and fixes available to you up to and including the version that you just installed. So definitely would recommend taking a look at the downloads page and going and seeing if downloading this new version makes sense for you. I would say it makes sense for everyone, but everyone has a different use case. A couple of pieces of housekeeping before we get started here. If you have any questions while we go along, feel free to ask them in the GoToWebinar toolbox. We have Brian here helping moderate, and he can field any questions and bring them to me if they come in through chat. But likewise, if I don't have an opportunity to answer any of those questions throughout the demo, I'll do my best to answer them towards the end. And if you think of a question after the webinar, or if I don't answer a question in full detail, feel free to give us an email, community@quoteworks.com, or you could always give us a call on our support line. So with that being said, what we're going to be presenting today, we're going to take a look at all of the new features that are included in build 3. Or build 24 version 3, excuse me. And that being said, we're going to go through a short PowerPoint. We're going to give an overview of a couple of the different features that we have, 2 in particular. And throughout the course of the presentation, we're also going to open it up for questions as well. So if we look at the version 24 build 3 from a high level, we have 20 new features, 8 miscellaneous features, and of course a number of other fixes as well. So with that said, again, we're going to focus on really 2 of the main key features that are being released. But if you have any questions about any of the other releases, you can go to our release page and view that information there, the what's new page, if you will. So with all of that being said, I want to just frame this conversation around the fact that I, again, have been a part of one release, but QuoteWerks itself has a number of releases that it's put out over the 30 years that it's been in operation. And that's because of a number of different things, right? One of them is we always want to continue to iterate on our products, listen to customer feedback, and provide you with tools to do what you need to do for your business. Another thing is we're just a bunch of geeks to some extent over here, and we want to always continue to make a better technical product. So this build here, again, build 3, is a representation of a lot of work from the development team here at QuoteWerks. And I will mention that is something that I've been very impressed by, is the entire process that this build goes through, right? We've got our developers, we've got our tech support team, we've got our individuals that are overseeing the QA process. There's really a lot to go into all of these different builds. And again, it's really exciting for me to be a part of this as my first foray into QuoteWerks. So what's new? We'll start with some integration updates, high level. Some of the CRM and PSA updates we have here. HubSpot CRM has some new features in there. Owners API has been updated to version 3. We're also going to prompt to create a one deal at conversion, which is something that our customers have asked for and that we see with some of our other CRMs as well. We've also provided some username mappings, so you can map usernames across HubSpot CRM and QuoteWerks, and then you can also select a default owner for the deal. Also, a pretty large announcement is we've introduced a support for Act for Desktop version 26 and Act for Web version 26 as well. And in the works, Halo PSA, hope to see that come in the future here. And I will also mention, again, everything that we do here at QuoteWerks is based on your feedback. So please feel free to email the community email, get involved in our forums, give us a call, let us know what we can do to help you. And all of the things that are represented in today's release are representations of those that feedback that we've received. So to get into some of the key features of this release, in addition to the primary signature that we collect in quote acceptance, we can now require additional customer signatures. And this is QuoteValet Multiple Signature Support. Think of this as the ability to set up either a sequential or non-sequential approval process for your quotes within QuoteValet, where you can have individuals within your company, individuals within your customer company, or individuals from a third party all provide their approval on a quote before it is converted to an order. For existing customers that have directly customized their QuoteValet HTML or CSS template, the multiple signature features will not work with those customized templates, and they have to be updated to use the multiple signature elements. With that being said, if you're using our stock templates that we provide with QuoteValet, those have all been updated to include this new multiple signature support feature. And again, this is one of the two that we're going to be diving into a little bit later. Another large change that we've introduced here in this recent build is the idea of multiple contact support. So in the past, QuoteWerks had a one-to-one relationship between the contact and the company. That is no longer the case. We've redesigned the way that we handle some of the data on the back end so that we now have the ability to store company information and contact information in a different way that allows us, again, to provide multiple contacts on a single company. Now, that gives you the ability to create, search, and use those contacts on your quotes. And there's some additional search options that we've provided that will help you in managing multiple contacts. And again, this is the second feature that we're really going to dive in later in this presentation. Along the lines of contacts as well, we've provided some enhancements to our multiple contacts. So if you are going to be importing multiple contacts at your first import, you have the ability to utilize Data Manager to import those multiple contacts. So if you've got a long list of contacts for a company, instead of going in and individually creating each of those contacts on that company record, you do have the ability to import those using Data Manager. That being said, Data Manager is a relatively advanced feature. You want to use it with caution, and if it's something that you haven't used before and you're looking to explore how you might use it to import your contacts, it might be beneficial to just give support a quick call. Also, along the lines of importing, we've provided some enhancements to our contact import wizard as well. So you can now map and view customized field labels, choose which line to import from, and exclude header roles. So really what this does is it aligns some of the functionality that you're seeing in the contact import wizard that you would normally see in, say, the product import wizard. Just really ways in which we're handling that import and making it easier for you to map fields and get things up and running quickly. Another thing that has been introduced here in this most recent build is an update to the UPS and FedEx integration. In the past, we've used a different type of integration, but FedEx and UPS have both now required use of their REST integration. So what we've done is we've now made the changes that we need to on our setup pages so that if you want to set up your real-time shipping modules, you can do that utilizing the API keys and credentials that are now valid for that REST implementation with UPS and FedEx respectively. Again, just to note, this is a change that UPS and FedEx made, and it was required for us to make that change in order for those modules to communicate with one another. With all that being said, if you utilize the real-time shipping module, I would suggest once you upgrade, going in there, checking your credentials, making sure that everything works as expected, as this is a major change, at least into the way that we interact or authenticate, I should say, with UPS and FedEx. There's also been some enhancements to our vendor import as well. So you can now choose to exclude header rows, and there's now an enhanced prompt when choosing to delete all existing vendors. Again, this is really just trying to provide, again, feature parity when it comes to our different import options. As I mentioned before, we've got the contact import and now the vendor import. Again, just trying to make these look the same, feel the same. And in the case of providing that prompt, giving you additional fail-safes to provide you the ability to not delete data that you might want to otherwise keep. So that's a highlight of the main features in this release. I want to take a quick moment to just pause and see if there's any questions from the audience. So if you do have any questions, feel free to go ahead and pop them in the chat and we can go ahead and answer them now. Otherwise, I'm sure other questions will come on as we continue through the webinar.
All right, so we do have our first question here, and this is from Steve, and I'll actually answer this one instead of you, Josh. His question was timescale on Halo. So, Steve, yes, Halo will be, or at least is planned to be released this year, and we are very close to releasing an interim for that. We just released build 3. We're going to very quickly release a build 4. And then shortly after that, we'll have the Halo integration. All right. Question from Paul. We use version 5.6. Does this webinar benefit you? Yes, it does if you're looking at what new features are available in QuoteWerks. And the cool thing is Josh is not only going to show off QuoteWerks Desktop, but he's also going to be showing off QuoteWerks Web as well. All right, and it looks like that's it for right now. So if you want to, you can go ahead and move forward here. I'm looking forward to seeing everything in Build 3.
Okay, so as I mentioned, there are going to be 2 main features that we're going to dive into today, and both of them have a significant amount of information to share about them. The first one is QuoteValet Multiple Signature Support, which we already did a quick overview, and the other is using multiple contacts, which again, we introduced at the beginning of the webinar. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to head over to my QuoteWerks Web environment. You can see I'm logged into QuoteWerks Web here. I've got a quote built out for a new office. It's got a switch, server, desktops, accessories on there. And in this case, it's a relatively large order, right? We're looking at almost $40,000. So this might be something that you want to make sure you handle with care. With that being said, there may be approvers within your company, at your customer's company, and even potentially at a third-party company like a law firm or a consultant that you're working with that need to give their sign-off before an order can be converted. So that's what this multiple signature process gives us. So to demo the multiple signature process, we're going to go to the Deliver tab, which opens up the Print, Share, Publish, and Deliver document window. We're going to upload our quote to QuoteValet. And one major thing here that I forgot to mention is we need to have a contact on the quote, right? So this is going to be a little bit of an introduction to what we're going to do when we do multiple contacts, but this is what our new contact lookup screen looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and just add a contact to our quote so we can show you what this multiple signature process looks like. Okay. So I'm going to choose Ryan Dan as our sold to, shipped to, and billed to contacts. But I want to point out the fact that when we're talking about this multiple signature approval, this sold to contact is going to be the primary signer in the process. So we need to make sure when we're utilizing multiple signature that we have a contact in as our sold to and that there is a valid email. If there is no contact, you'll see we'll get that note that we did before, that we needed to have a contact in there. And if there's no email, then this process is not going to work because it requires this individual, this sold to contact, to provide their approval. So let's go back to Deliver. and we'll go back to upload to QuoteValet. And this is the page where we're actually going to interact with our signing options. We do have the opportunity to preview the PDF file if we wanted to, but in this case, we're going to be sending it via email anyway. So we're going to go ahead and move to step 2, which is setting the options. Many of you might be familiar with the reminder options that's listed here. This is something that's been in place for a little while. Gives you the ability to remind your recipients or your sales reps when a document hasn't been viewed within a certain number of days, is expiring in a certain number of days, or has been accepted and not paid after a certain number of days. I just wanted to point this out because it is a really useful tool in regards to providing reminders both to your sales reps or directly to your customers when it comes to following up on QuoteValet quotes. But the one that we're here to talk about today is really this signing options button. And this is the button that enables you to put into place the multiple signature support process. So see, this opens the QuoteValet additional signing options window. And the first thing that we need to determine is the signing sequence that we're going to use. I think I mentioned earlier that there's really two. There's sequential and there's simultaneous. So sequential means that there's going to need to be a sequence of approvals that occur before this order can be converted to, or this quote can be converted to an order. So the first approver has to sign, then the second, then the third, so on and so forth. In the case of a simultaneous signing sequence, we still need to get our approvers from all of the different individuals that are on this particular page. However, they can put their approval in at any given time, and the document will be considered accepted once all of the signatures have been captured. So 2 different ways you can handle it. For the purposes of today's demo, I'm going to utilize the sequential model to just show you how that escalated process kind of works, where it goes from one individual to the next individual to the next, and so on and so forth. You'll see after our signing sequence, we have our customer primary signer who's been loaded directly from our quote. And that's Ryan Dan, again, pulled from our sold to area here in our sold to ship to tab. First step we want to do is to add a customer additional signer. So this is going to be someone at your customer that needs to sign off on this quote. In this case, we're going to use Ryan Dan, and his email is QuoteWerksCustomer@outlook.com. Now, I just want to mention, any of the emails that you see here today are not monitored, and they're not active emails. They're just used for demo purposes. So, please don't send emails to those emails. If you have any questions, again, we've got the community email. We've also got our sales email, of course, our support email as well. But here we've got our contact. And, I just realized I used Ryan Dan's name. We're going to go ahead and use a different name just to not confuse ourselves. We call this customer approver John Kamal. So we've got John Kamal here. We've got his email input, and we can also come in and add a message. This is going to be a message that is going to be previewed to the customer when they actually go and view the QuoteValet page. So it might be something as simple as please review and provide approval, right? In order for us to save John Kamal as our contact here, we have to make sure to click this green check box. And now we have our customer additional signer saved. If we wanted, we could add additional customer additional signers here as well. But for the purposes of today, I'm going to use one customer additional signer and one co-signer. So again, these customer additional signers are typically going to be individuals that are internal to the customer that you're selling to. Countersigners, on the other hand, are going to be either a QuoteWerks user, a QuoteWerks user group, or a third party. So what this means is you can come in here and if you choose QuoteWerks user, actually select from one of the users that you have loaded into the QuoteWerks system. Or if you wanted, you can send it to a QuoteWerks group. So let's say you have a group of individuals that can provide approval on this quote. You can send it to that group, and anyone in that group can provide their approval in order for the quote to be considered accepted. And the purposes of today, I'm going to use a third party where we can send it to essentially any company that we'd like. In this case, we could say it's a larger order. Maybe we need to go and send it to Simmons Consulting, and we need Matt Smith to provide his approval just to make sure that we have everything in place that we need to. And I'm going to go ahead and change this to QuoteWerks Training 1 Outlook.com. Say the hardest part of doing this is just remembering to use the right email address, right? I'm going to go ahead and change this
One
email
second
here.
there. Sorry, Josh. Your Outlook.com for the countersigner needs to be fixed before you send that out.
Like I said, the hardest thing is maintaining email addresses. It's not often demonstrating the process. So as you can see here, I'm just making sure that we have different email addresses associated with each contact, right? This is not going to be as much of a consideration for you as there's going to be actual individuals that you'll be sending them to. So again, we've got John Kamal, QuoteWerks Training at Outlook.com, and then we've got Matt Smith at, again, this email address. Perfect. I could also add a message for Matt if I wanted to here under the message column. I'm going to choose to leave that blank. And again, we have to make sure we click on the green check mark in order to save them as a part of the signing sequence. And that's it for the configuration. We're going to go ahead and close. And those signing options have now been saved. So we're going to upload this quote to QuoteValet. And we're going to go through and actually demonstrate what this process looks like in regards to obtaining those additional approvals. So I'm going to go ahead and send the email utilizing QuoteValet. And you'll see here that it automatically populates Ryan Dan's email, who is, again, the primary contact that we have on the quote. And it gives them the ability to go in and accept the quote by clicking on the link in the email. So I'm going to go ahead and send that out there. And I'm going to go over to our Outlook. So we are going to go to QuoteWerks Customer Outlook.com, which is Ryan Dan's email. And you can see we have an email that just came in that is representative of the email that we just sent. So Ryan has the opportunity to come in and click here. So it's going to bring him to the QuoteValet web page. And he can easily go through, review the quote. If he has any additional questions, he can come down and type his question in and it'll be shared with the sales rep. But let's assume that Ryan has reviewed the quote, everything looks good. He would agree to the terms and conditions, put a PO number in there if he sees fit, and then put his printed name, which will then provide a written signature. So we'll go ahead and provide Ryan Dan's approval here. And one other thing I want to point out is in the additional signing requirements, there's also a breakdown of how this approval will be handled, right? So in this case, we have 2 other individuals that need to provide their approval, and it indicates that the acceptance will only be considered once all of those approvals have been obtained. So I'm going to click to accept, and this is Ryan Dan accepting the quote. It says, thank you for accepting the quote here. And you'll see if we go back to Ryan Dan's email, he's also got an email here that says, hey, thank you for signing. But just to give you a heads up, we've got additional individuals that need to sign before it's fully executed. And there's even a link here to go back to that QuoteValet webpage if we wanted to go back and just double check where we were in the process. So this was Ryan Dan's email. Let's go over to John Kamal's email now. John Kamal, if you remember, was our customer signer. And you'll see that he's got an email here that says that he is being requested to provide his signature on this quote. He can go in, click on it, again, review all of the quote information. You can see that Ryan Dan's approval is already captured here. And then there is the note here on the status. So we're currently waiting on a signature from John Kamal, and then a message from the sender, which is the one that we typed in. So please review the quote and provide approval. So in this case, we're going to assume that John Kamal has reviewed, everything looks good, and he's going to submit his signature. At this point, we only have one more approval left, and that's going to be over at Simmons Consulting and Matt Smith, and this is his email here. This is the co-signer again. Co-signer can be individuals internal to your QuoteWerks instance, or they can be individuals that are at a third party. In this case, we're simulating a third party. Again, an email comes to Matt Smith that says, please review, your signature is requested. He has the ability to come back to this page to review the quote, and once everything is good to go, he can provide his approval here. Just like the other quote signers, he has the option to provide questions if he needs some clarification. And there's even an uploads area here that I'll point out if individuals want to share different files within the QuoteValet webpage. So with Matt's signature, submitting his signature, we are now completing the signature process, and this order, or quote, excuse me, can now be converted to an order. Now, one of the great things about this whole process is that in addition to us being able to view this page and see how things are progressing through here, we also have the ability to go into QuoteWerks Web or QuoteWerks Desktop and review that information in the QuoteValet tab. Before I show you that, I just wanted to also mention the fact that as all of this is happening, we're also getting updates to the sales rep email that shows you the progression of this quote throughout the process. So for example, just like John Kamal and Ryan Dan and Matt Smith receive their emails, the sales rep is also receiving emails that give them an insight into what is occurring throughout the process. So if we go back over to QuoteWerks Web, again, I mentioned we have the QuoteValet tab, and you'll see that it indicates that the quote has been updated with options customer selected through QuoteValet, and it gives us some information about that particular acceptance. The reason I wanted to show you this here today is because of the fact that on that page, we go back, you'll see that we have a very clear accounting of all of the different activity that we have here. So I created the quote here at 222. Our customer accepted, and John Kamal provided his approval. Matt Smith provided their approval, and the document was fully executed. So in here, you're able to see a lot of information and really gain insight into how things have progressed throughout the approval process. On this page, there's a number of other things that you can do. You can request payment, you can retrieve the acceptance package, review the customer sales page. A lot of different things that you can do here. I just wanted to, again, just point out the fact that QuoteValet activity is very granular when it comes to the multiple signature support. So I know there's a lot of information that we just went through, walked through a lot of different steps. I'll give it a moment. If there are any questions, Brian, feel free to let me know and we can address them now.
We did have quite a few questions come in. So the first one here is from Chris, and I think he's talking specifically about the multi-signing with QuoteValet. Is this now available in QuoteWerks Desktop, because you are showing it in QuoteWerks Web?
Yes, it is. So everything that we're doing today is available directly in QuoteWerks Desktop. So if we come over to QuoteWerks Desktop, I'm kind of getting into the next piece of what I was going to do, but sorry, I shouldn't have hit email there. If we go back to upload to QuoteValet, we're going to be prompted to save, and then you'll see that we have the same options once we get to our page here. So signing options is just the same thing here in desktop.
Perfect. Question from Nick. Do all of the signers get the email at the same time, and can they sign in any order?
Good question. So it depends on the way in which you've configured the multiple signing, right? So if you have it set up as, I can't actually go back into this one here, but if you have it, if you have it set up as a sequential, then it is going to require that the individuals are signing in a very specific sequence. So it's in that case, signers can't sign at any time. In the case of a simultaneous signing sequence, they can sign at any time, and it'll be considered approved once all of those signatures have been obtained, regardless of which order that they've come in. Okay. So I hope that helps answer that question. I see a thumbs up from Nick, so great.
Perfect. Let's see. Wow, there's lots of questions. Question from Dean. Which signer is presented with the payment options?
That's a good question. And you know, Brian, I might actually kick that one to you because it's something I have not really run into yet.
Okay, so I can definitely answer that. So it would be just like a normal QuoteValet quote, the way you would normally send it out. It's going to be the sold to contact would get the payment option, and that would be once all of the signers have signed, and then at that point they will get notified that they can go ahead and present payment. You can also send the reminder manually, or it'll automatically QuoteValet will automatically send that out as well using those reminder options that Josh showed you guys.
Yeah, and you also have the ability at any point here to request payment on this page that we're looking at here too, once those approvals have been made.
Okay. Question here from Matt: Is the URL for the primary and subsequent signers the same or different?
The URL. The URL is going to be slightly different. So if you look up here, it's actually specific to that signer. So they are not going to be the same.
Let's see. Question here from Steve. Can he utilize three different QuoteValet templates to present the information to these three different approvers? Basically, having a different template for approver one versus approver two versus approver three, interacting with the QuoteValet page.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't believe that's possible at this moment. Brian, if you know otherwise, let me know, but I haven't seen that as a use case.
Yeah, that's definitely that's a new one for me as well. But so unfortunately at this time, it would be the same layout for all of them.
I am putting that down as a note, though, just for something for us to consider.
Question here from Alex: If one signer approves the quote, will the other signers get a message of the approval sign?
Well, easiest way is to look at it, right? In this case, no. So they're going to get, I should say it depends on who it is, right? So the primary signer will, but if you look at Matt Smith here, who's a co-signer, he's just going to get that original email that says we need your signature, and then the follow-up email that says thanks for your signature.
Can you
If
go
we
ahead
go
and
back,
show that?
yeah, um, yeah, this one here, it's just thanking him for the document.
Actually, this
Um,
one is letting them know that it was fully executed. So we do let them know when everybody is done in the entire process. So,
Gotcha. Yep.
yep.
But if we were to go to the Ryan Dan email, you'll notice that there's a lot more information there, right? So you can see that as we go through each of the process steps in the process, he is receiving notifications as well. So really the primary is going to be the most informed, but there is a feedback loop for all of the other contacts as well.
That looks like all of them at this point. I've already answered the other ones offline, or I will get to them shortly. So you can go ahead and continue on there, Josh.
Okay. Well, hey, great. I really appreciate the questions. I know that this can sometimes be a bit dry content, but your questions certainly help pepper it up a little bit. We are actually, I mentioned or looked at the poll that Brian was doing at the beginning, and it looks like most of you are on desktop, or a significant number of you are on desktop. And you also 50% or so use the QuoteWerks native database. So this next topic that we're going to go into is going to be particularly useful for you if I demo it in QuoteWerks Desktop. So I'm going to do that here. So I've just went from QuoteWerks Web. Now we're on QuoteWerks Desktop, and we're going to switch modes and start talking about the multiple contact support that we now have. Again, high level, in the past, we had the ability to assign one contact to each company. And in some cases, individuals would have to create multiple company records in order to store multiple contacts for a single actual company, right? So wasn't the best way of doing things. It was kind of going around the way that it should be done as a means to accomplish something rather than nothing. So what we did is we've collected all the feedback from our partners and customers out there. And what we've identified, again, is that having multiple contacts is a really useful tool. But really, in order to use multiple contacts, there's a whole slew of other things that need to be in place in order to do that. So we're going to start at the basics, and we'll kind of progress through the different changes that were introduced in this new build. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to start by going to the contact lookup. So we can either go to Contacts, look up Contact, or the Contacts tab here. And any of you that are used to searching in the native contact database for QuoteWerks are going to notice that this is different. We have new fields that we can search with: company, phone, contact, and email. And we also have two other fields where you can actually pull those from any of the different entries in the companies or contacts tables. So you could utilize any of these different fields, utilize operators like begins with, contains or ends with, and simply put in your query here, and it will return a number of results. Now I hit all instead of the magnifying glass, so it gave me a lot more contacts. But as you can see here, we've got our contacts for Computer Hut, and you'll notice that all of them are associated to a singular company ID, right? The company ID is listed in the left-hand column. And that's an important consideration because, again, it represents the fact that we have a singular company record with 3 contacts that are associated to that company record. On this page, if we wanted to, we could easily come in and create a new company by hitting N. But in order for us to create that company, we would also have to provide a primary contact name as well. So while we've decoupled the company and contacts from being a one-to-one relationship, you still do need to create a contact at the time of company creation. So just a note there. The other thing that we can do here on this screen, and it opens up a conversation around a number of other things, is we can come in and hit the edit button, and this opens the new company window. So the company window now is specific to the company record. As you can see here, we've got the company name, we've got AKA fields. So if you were to search all things MSP, Computer Hut will be displayed in the search results. We've got our ref field, so referential information about the company, lead source information, all the other information that you might want to know about the company. Additionally, we have the ability to use custom text fields, actually a number of custom text, date, and number fields that are all included in the Fields tab here. And you have the ability to set terms for this particular company, tax rates, account number, and counting customer ID. Another really cool feature that we have here is the ability to come in and include notes in the company record. We have our top notes, which are the ones that are included up here. These are always going to be listed at the top of the notes field. And then we have our general notes area, where if you hit Control-I, it'll input your username and a time and date stamp for you, so you can come in and put a note in, whatever it may be, something that you want to save about that company. I would suggest that many of you probably have a CRM or PSA that you're storing information like this in, but again, this is a great opportunity for you to store quick hit information specific to QuoteWerks within the company record. So that's the company record. We've talked about the fact that you can create a new company, that you can edit a new company. One thing that I also want to point out is that we now have a delete company button here at the bottom, and that would be used if you wanted to remove this company record in totality. Important thing to mention is if you do, all of the contacts are removed as well, and we can't restore them. So if you're deleting a company or even deleting a contact, use caution and make sure that you're doing exactly what you want to do before you do it. Now we're going to focus on this contacts tab here, because this is, again, different and new. We now have a listing of our contacts for Computer Hut here. We could create a new contact. We could clone a contact. We can edit a contact, delete a contact, or even send an email directly to that contact from this window. Now, if we created a new contact, it'll be the same thing as the edit screen, and cloning a contact is essentially the same screen. It opens up what we call the contact window, right? This one is a clone contact window, but we have the edit contact window. Both look very much the same. You can see we have a place for the contact name, title, role, another reference field. And then if you wanted to get even granular, we have the account rep, customer price profile, customer tax rate, and again, all of those custom text fields and note options that we had on the company page. So why would you clone a contact? Well, let's say that you have a contact that has all of the same information except for the name as, say, John Kamal. You could come in, type in their name, save that record, maybe change a couple of different things here, but you're not having to create an entirely new company record, or excuse me, contact record. So pretty useful, could certainly help you save some time in creating contacts. Now I'm going to go and hit edit here as well, because again, it's just going to bring us into that contact field. Just want to point out the fact that you do have the ability to toggle is primary contact here as well. So if you did want to come in and change the primary contact on the account, you can certainly do that here. All right, so that is the edit company page, and we've already talked about the contacts here. We've talked about cloning contacts, editing contacts, creating new contacts. One thing I want to also talk about is the move company or move contact operation, excuse me. This is actually important, again, because of the fact that there may be some of you out there that have created multiple contact records that are associated with multiple different companies, even though they're the same entity, just to be able to store them in the system. So this move contact feature gives you the ability to take, let's say, I'm going to go ahead and search for all of my contacts here and companies. But let's say we wanted to take this secondary contact. It's in Aspire Technologies. Let's say that it needed to be moved to a different account, whether it's an account with the same name or an account with a different name. All we have to do is click on that particular contact. Then we're going to want to hit Control and then click on the company or a record for the company that we'd like that contact to be included in. We right click and we hit Move Contacts. This is going to verify for us that we've chosen to move this contact. And then when we hit yes, you'll see that QuoteWerks now has that secondary contact associated with it, and Aspire Technologies no longer has that as well. Another thing to mention here is if we are working in that scenario of there being a duplicate account, I've created a duplicate account here with a contact Duplo. My kids love Lego, so I just had to do it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to demonstrate how you would take a contact from one company, right? In this case, company ID 27, and associate it with a different company. In this case, we're going to associate it with JL QuoteWerks Company 4 here. So just like we did with our move contact, because this is the only contact on the account, or if there were multiple contacts but you were moving all of those contacts, there's going to be a little bit different of a logic as it relates to how it works, right? So we've got a duplicate contact here. We're going to hit Control. We're going to go down and click QuoteWerks, and we're going to hit Move Contacts. We get the same screen that we did before, but when we hit yes, it's going to say, hold on a second. Just so you know, as we move this company, the duplicate account is going to be deleted. So you're sure that you want to move forward, right? So it's saying not only is the contact going to be moved under JL QuoteWerks, but that main company, in this case, duplicate account, is going to be removed in its entirety. So it's super important that you pay attention to this prompt and make sure that you are clicking with some educated intent. In this case, perfectly fine. I hit yes, and we see now we have JL QuoteWerks and Duplo as one of our contacts, and we no longer have our duplicate account listed here. So as you can see, there's been a pretty big change to the way that we are doing things here and managing our contacts. For some of you, there may be instances where you need to go in and do a little bit of cleanup. If you were managing things differently, again, let's say creating multiple company records for the same company in order to store multiple contacts. And the move tool operation here will be great for you. And Brian can correct me if I'm wrong, but we have a webinar scheduled 10th of next month to actually go over in more detail the considerations of these changes and some of the best practices around maybe cleaning up if you are in one of those scenarios. So with that being said, that's about it for multiple contacts. I'm going to open it back up for questions and see if anyone has any pointed questions they'd like to have answered.
So question, if we edit contacts within QuoteWerks, will it sync over to our CRM? And in this case, they're using ConnectWise.
Okay, so it's a little bit different of a question, right? Because I just want to make sure we have the table set here, right? We're using the QuoteWerks native contact database. So this is completely different than if you were using the ConnectWise database. So if you had your ConnectWise database set up as your contact manager, then if you do create contacts in QuoteWerks, we can pull them into ConnectWise. But you're not going to be able to do that if you're utilizing the QuoteWerks native contact database. So to really full circle answer your question, if you're utilizing ConnectWise, I'm not sure this really matters to you all that much, right? It's really
Yeah.
for those of you that are utilizing the native contact database.
Right, and I'll jump in there. In the case where you need to create contacts inside of ConnectWise PSA, you can do that from the Sold to Ship to tab if it is
Mhm.
a new contact that you did not retrieve from there. But like Josh said, this interface is specifically for the QuoteWorks contact database. Let's see. Question here from Justine here. Would it be possible to show this in QuoteWorks Web? The ability to create new contacts.
I can, but it's going to be a little bit different. I can tell you that within QuoteWerks Web, we have the ability to manage multiple contacts, but the web interface is not exactly the same. So let me see if I could find my QuoteWerks Web here. And I'll just show you kind of how things are a little bit different between the two. I'm going to go ahead and open up a new quote, and we'll go in again to our contact lookup feature. So what you'll notice here is, again, we do have the multiple contacts associated with the companies, and we do have the primary associations, but there are certain things that we haven't yet implemented in web, right? So you don't see the clone feature, for example, won't be there if you go in to edit a company. You don't see the company ID listed here. There's a couple changes, but for the most part, you're still going to be able to utilize the multiple contacts as you would on desktop. It's just more so if you're wanting to do cleanup of those contacts, you're going to want to do that on the desktop version.
Okay, and would it be possible to show just creating a brand new contact
Yeah.
from scratch?
Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is you want to go into the company screen. So let's say we wanted to create a new contact for Computer Hut. We click on any of the three contacts that are here. And if we hit edit, that's going to bring us to the edit company screen. Once we're in the edit company screen, you just hit the new button. You can put in the contact's name, any other information that you might want to store for the contact, hit OK, and you'll see that Joe Smith is now listed here as one of our contacts. So really simple to do, really not that much to it.
All right. Question here from Marcia, and this is specifically about the new multiple signature support, and I think I'll go ahead and answer it. How can you get customized templates to allow multiple signatures?
Mm,
Marcia, if you're using one of our built-in templates, like you haven't modified our existing templates, it's already there. You don't have to do anything special. We actually made it so it was very easy to add this functionality. Now, if you have either customized your HTML or CSS on your own or worked with a third party to do so, they will need to assist you with getting that merged in, possibly, depending on what was changed. All right. That's all the questions that would be online as far as questions that we'll answer here. There are a few people that have asked some other questions that are a little bit unrelated, so we will go ahead and answer those offline.
great. Well, with that being said, I want to appreciate everyone here for coming and taking part in this release webinar. Obviously, it's a big deal for me being the first release webinar that I've run. I know that it's likely not to the quality of Mr. Laufer over here in previous release webinars, but over time, I certainly hope to get to that standard. One thing I'll say again is my job here is to make sure that we are responsive to what the community wants and what our customers are asking for. So I would strongly encourage you, if you have any questions or recommendations, feature requests, engage with our team. We are really, really excited to engage with our partners and customers and would love to have everyone tell us what they want. So Again, thank you for your time and appreciate everything that you've done today. We'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thank you very much.